governance plus corporate social responsibility. Freedom 106.5 FM gives you a voice. Freedom to inspire. Freedom to change. Speak your mind with Freedom 106.5 FM. This is the human impact on Freedom 106.5 FM. Speak your mind.
This is Agribusiness Innovations, and we have Mr. Jody White and his guest, Mr. Chris Bisnath. Welcome, Jody, and welcome, sir.
Morning.
Chris, thank you for joining us. Agribusiness Innovation. It's a rainy day here in Port of Spain. So those of you who have plants, I think that they'll be very, very happy to get some rain after all this dry weather. I know I've been having a lot of challenges out in the fields right now, so I'm happy with this. Chris is a vocal farmer.
Mm-hmm.
He's involved in hydroponics and some other activities that we get into. So, I just wanted to tap into him and get some of his personal experiences. So, Chris, you here with us?
Hey, yes, good morning. You hear me clearly, right?
Loud and clear. So, Chris, please introduce yourself and your business to our listeners.
Right, so my name is Chris Bisnath, also known as Trini Farmer Chris, right? So I'm a hydroponic farmer doing drip-to-waste farming for the past 7 years now. And that's basically our business. We basically grow seasoning. We started off with leafy greens, but now we basically do seasoning. We also teach other people about hydroponics, and I have a large following on social media. That's pretty much it. And we're in a lot of groceries, and we supply a lot of wholesalers as well around the country.
Chris, what I want to know is that you are a relatively young person. What made you get into this sector?
To be honest, so when I first started, I actually was helping out a friend because he had the idea. He wanted to be in agriculture, and he had the land, and he wanted to invest in it. And he just came to me and he was like, Chris, I want a little bit of advice in terms of basically showing me if this is feasible or not, because I was an accountant before. So he said, let me do a cash flow projection and check it out and see if it's feasible. When I did the cash flow projection, I was like, the margins are crazy in agriculture. That's like the number one thing that piqued my interest, because when you put $1, you could potentially get back between $5 to $10. So that piqued my interest immediately. And after that, when I did the cash flow for him, I basically said, you know what, I want to be an investor in this. And that's how I got started from there. We started doing in-ground farming at the start because it seemed feasible at the time. Now, we tried different methods. In-ground was the start because it was the cheapest, but then I realized it's labor intensive, it was difficult, the crop's not growing well, a lot of difficulties in terms of pests, fungi, disease, so much bacteria, different things you're dealing with in the environment. So we look for alternative methods, and then I think a few guys was coming up in the hydroponics sector, and like guys from Hydroponics and Greenage Farms, all of these different people were coming up. So we started to have conversations with them, and from that point, well, my business partner, Shivesh Rup, he was like, you know what, from all the conversations, I think we could do this on our own. And we basically put together all the pieces, and we started with 120 lettuce. And from that point forward, we basically, like, when I started that, I was like, all right, let me try this, invest the money, do this. After we did that, I just had an epiphany after, because we did it once. It's like we built the system, we planted once. After 1 month, we reap harvest with minimal effort and work, like what we was previously doing. And I was like, this is like the best thing in the planet, because we spend little to no time to actually reap our crop. And I took that cash flow basically from that first harvest, and we reinvested it, and we doubled up production. And then after, we just kept doing that months and months until we started to grow up to 8,000 lettuce at one point in time. So that's just a rough history of how we started. And we started this like 7 years ago, back when, right before COVID.
What's your educational background?
Mine is more in business management actually. I never studied agriculture. That's the funny thing. I never studied agriculture until I actually got into it.
You ever thought that you would enter this industry? I mean, thinking back
Mhm.
10 years ago, you ever thought that you would, I mean, technically you're an agribusiness now, you're a farmer, you ever thought you'd be in?
Yeah. So when I used to live in St. Augustine, I used to pass through UWE a lot, and every time I talked to someone in UWE or spoke to someone, I actually spoke to a couple of guys who were deans and stuff in UWE, and everybody was like, agriculture is the future, and they were always treading towards that way. If you're talking like a decade ago, they were always trying to push agriculture from since back then. It didn't have the modern tech as it has now in terms of like the accessibility for so many things today. Like you can get everything today relatively cheap and grow a system like real quick. It's not that hard, right? But that's the only thing that I could say would have piqued my interest from in the early is that people would have been pushing agriculture since a decade ago to be something towards frontline investment for people to be involved in.
When you would have told people that you're
Mhm.
going to start to do this, what's the reaction that you got from people?
That's a good question. So there were a lot of pushbacks. Some people were encouraging. Others were like, try it and see if it works. But I never let anything demotivate me or cloud the vision because I think I was the only one that had a clear vision of this being what it is today because it's a unique skill and aspect to see something before it's happened, like before it actually creating reality, right? Like I used to watch a space and I just used to visualize what it could be. And I think that is what was the driving factor. Like you could have just see it before it actually materialized and basically know and believe in yourself that you could have do it. And for the people who believe or didn't believe in me at the time, I mean, now they know that you could put any like you could do anything once you put your mind towards it and visualize it and put enough effort and money behind it.
Now, when people hear the term hydroponic,
Mhm.
there's a common term that people say. They say chemical,
Yeah,
science lab.
correct.
Now, how would you respond to people that would say soil grown is automatically healthier?
I would kind of agree with them only because okay, so I wouldn't agree with the soil grown 100%. Now, this is my reasoning behind it, right? Now, I have seen a lot of things in the industry. I don't want to disclose every single thing in the industry because I don't want too much people coming down on it as like, wait, we don't know what's going on, right? With how your food's being grown. Now, I think it's relatively important everybody knows how their food is being grown, though, because a lot of things I didn't know when I thought everything was organic when I was growing up. Like, I just thought everything was natural, that people just planted it grow. I didn't know about chemicals, all these different things, right? Now, when it comes to hydroponics, a lot of people don't realize that hydroponics is a lot cleaner than soil grown crops. Reason why is because hydroponics, we have to control the water quality from the start. If the water quality is poor, you're not going to get the result you're looking for. So you have to have like a good quality source of water. Normally, what people do with hydroponics, they either collect rainwater, which is like a neutral water, or they get wasa water or chlorine water or something like that, where it's more clean or relatively clean to start with. Now, people who farm in the ground sometimes, like you say out in the field, they might pull it from the river. Some of them I've seen pull it from the drain, believe it or not. And they just water in their crops with that, right? Now, you need to understand something. If the water isn't purified or clean from the start, remember you introducing bacteria and disease into your crops immediately. And then what they tend to do is they tend to use like pesticides and fungicides to combat against the bacteria and disease that they're bringing onto the crops. Now with hydroponics, yes, it's chemicals we're using, but the only chemical we relatively use is more the fertilizer. And if I had to use any other other source of chemicals outside of that, it will be biological or organic chemicals that are not harming the environment but are friendly to the environment and also more organic for the human. Because as a farmer, I believe what you put in and grow your crops is how everybody will be consuming it. If I am not consuming it, then I don't want to be selling people it, because then it will be dangerous for the human. So I try not to go towards that route. I try to keep it clean and organic as much as possible, even though it's hydroponic. It's just the hydroponic is just water soluble fertilizer. That's all it tends to be, right? Which means it's just easier for the plant to uptake. So it's helping the plant to uptake the nutrients faster than, if it was solid. That's basically it.
I tried hydroponics before in the backyard.
Right.
This is real science. I'll have to do though. Like
Mhm.
it's not as easy as just filling something with water and dumping some fertilizers in a barrel and in a pump. Go through. I mean, there's a lot of technicality in there. So how did you learn all the science behind it?
All right, that's a good question. Now, there are two types of systems. The one you're probably mentioning is, so there's like, all right, there's about 4 or 5 different methods of hydroponic systems out there. The system I tend to use is a drip to waste system, which is relatively the easiest system, I would say, for any starter person to do. Right now, the system you're probably referring to is an NFT system, where it's a recirculating system with the water. You'll have to manage now pH, you have to manage now ppm, which is the concentration of the nutrients that delivering to the plants. You always have to be managing your water quality, and you always have to manage your temperature. There's a lot of variables you'll have to manage if you're going with the NFT route. So that's why I tend to go the drip to waste route, where it's a lot less intense like that, and we just mix fertilizer once into the tanks, and it distributes out with the pump and a timer over a period of time until it finish, and then after we start over again. So our pumps don't run every day, like continuously. It runs on a minimal amount of 10 minutes for the day maximum, and that's how we grow our crops. And as you can see, and you can follow my pages and social media, like that's how I grow everything. And it's less risk, and also it's more control, because the medium tends to keep the plant healthy and upright all the time, and I basically spend less time in the actual system all the time like that. I don't have to worry about it. Like, I haven't been to the farmers yet for the day, right? I could actually relax and take my time and actually go when it's time to go.
I think I chose a complicated one. I actually did vertical towers.
Okay.
The roots actually were the small cups, and the roots kind of hang on the inside, and I have to have a recirculating pump running all the time, which to
right.
me ended up being such a for my design at least.
Right.
It was such a waste of resources, both water and fertilizers. That at a point I said, you know what, just go back to the soil.
Yeah.
Or change this design.
Yeah, it will be a little bit difficult if it's a vertical too, and because vertical systems, I think now a lot of people don't understand vertical systems too much, because there's so much variables when it comes to vertical systems. You have to get it right, like in terms of sunlight distribution, the air quality. There's so much, and then if it's something that dripping down, you have to make sure each one of your plants actually getting that nutrients vital to their growth. So it's a lot of different factors when it comes to vertical farming versus horizontal farming as well. I do both. I know, and I see a lot of different systems. I visit a lot of farms in Trinidad, so I've seen almost all of it at this point. So I know what it is, but at the end of the day, I will always say my system is the easiest because of how well I know it and how easy it is to scale. If you have to manage something so much on a daily basis, I mean, you can't really call it a business, or you can't really call it an asset at the end of the day. And how can you enjoy the money that's generated if you have to baby it so much? If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I would say though that some of the crops that I've seen you grow, I have a hard time getting to do well in the soil. So, for instance, on our end, doing certain things like parsley is one of the hardest things for us to grow in open agriculture because for whatever reason,
Mm.
maybe it's the amount of sunlight or I don't know. That gives me such trouble. And when I see your images of the types of the size of those crops, I mean I kinda jealous, I'll be honest with you.
Nah, parsley is our number one crop that we grow actually. It's probably the easiest. So if we living in two different worlds then because
This
yeah.
one time is the easiest. As you had this one time is the
Yeah,
easiest one.
it tends to be the easiest. It's actually the most friendliest because we don't use we use zero pesticides on the parsley. We use zero fungicides as well. We only feed it hydroponic fertilizer, and the crop actually gives us a life cycle of 4 to 8 months. And I would say I love parsley the way it grows, and it's healthy for everybody. Actually, parsley is like one of the crops I think everybody should be consuming too because it has all the vital minerals and nutrients that all humans need, especially the chlorophyll that's really healthy for your blood. So it's a very good detoxer as well. Like people could juice it with fruits and actually drink it, and they will get fiber and all the nutrients that they need. Like it's like a miracle herb in a sense, if you understand the biological makeup of the parsley as well.
Now, I mean, one of the things that some of the things that we commonly see people complain about would be flooding, the heat, the dry season, the perennial larceny. You think hydroponics would kind of solve some of these headaches?
Now, all of these things are different factors, right? It will always come down to your area, I would say, right? Like, for example, you mentioned rain, right? Like heavy rainfall and stuff and flooding. That will always be determined by which area you are in. Like, I could choose to be somewhere else and set up a hydroponic system, but that doesn't protect me from flooding immediately. Because if I'm in close to the riverbank in Caroni, that river it had certain periods where it has come up to the roadside, like high up to the roadside, right? And houses have been flooded, so I can't say it will protect us 100% from flood. So it will always come down to which area you are in for the flooding, at least that aspect. Now, yes, we are off the ground, we are 3 feet off the ground in most of our systems, so like we will be protected on that level. And I haven't experienced flood where I am at because the land is very high to start with. So I would say always think about where you're starting with and what area you're in when you start. And if you're thinking about flood, if you're thinking about heat now heat is something we all face, right? It is a tropical climate we are in. Um, to manage heat now, I would do one watering early in the morning, and that normally saturates the entire medium and keeps the plant up until the next day. So I don't really worry about heat too much. Now, if it's dramatically hot, like for some reason the influx of heat increases, then I might give it a second watering at the end of the day. But that's only if it's necessary. Majority of the time, I don't do this. I tend to water once for the day, and that is be it, or we water several times at smaller time intervals, right? And perennial larceny, now this is something we face, like as far I have experienced this as well. Like we have had like people have breaking by us already and steal equipment and machinery by us already. Is something I would say as a farmer, you tend to face this because I've heard a lot of farmers have experienced this as well, and not only myself. You just have to basically protect your place. I would say if you could get a proper wall or fence and cameras, and also if you could get some dogs, like put things in place so that you could protect your business from these factors that could happen, right? I can't say it will protect everybody and it will stop this particular problem, but like at least if you put something in place, it will prevent or reduce the chances of it happening to you. And that is my biggest advice for everything that you mentioned there. It could be for normal farmers or hydroponic farmers. It could happen to anyone, right? But it all comes down to how you put things in place for your business and for yourself.
Now, I mean, people find these systems attractive. They look good, they see it in a backyard, they see it in an open field, and there's an attractiveness to it because it's technology, it's new, it's novel, it sounds easier. But I mean, talking real numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone wants to start one in the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it like a rich man's game, or you think regular people can get into it?
To answer that question, I would say hydroponics could be for anyone, right? If you want to start it in your backyard, if you want to grow it as a business, it works both ways. But it all comes down to what is your target and what are your goals. Now, like I said, I started off when I had a job and I invested and I basically grew that investment to the point where I have done this for the last 7 years. Haven't done anything else really. I probably worked by my uncle for probably one day in a week for the most, but I've always done this as a full-time business, right? Because I've grown the investment to this part. And my objective now is to multiply this investment and get it bigger than what it currently is by helping other people building other farms and growing more businesses, right? Now, it all comes down to knowing your numbers, like you said. If you can get your materials cheaper, you have an advantage. If you can get labor cheaper, you have an advantage. If you know what you are doing, which is the educational side of it, you have an advantage because it saves you so much time, money, and effort from all the potential problems that could happen in the system. And you could actually profit more if you are more educated from the start. So I would say it all comes down to those three factors and time as well, if you have time. You need to decide if this is something you would like to do as an individual or if this is something on the part-time or a hobby. For more the backyard people, it might be a hobby. They just want something to grow. They just want to see their leafy greens and scythe and seasoning, all those seasoning and other like fruit trees and whatever grow right there. Yeah, they can do that. It's not a problem. It will save them a lot of money in the long term because I mean, we all understand inflation and we all understand that prices of things have gone up significantly, right? From since COVID period to now, food has almost doubled or tripled in price, right? So if you did started in the early, like when I started, or even before that, or even now, you can start now, you would still have an advantage because you are growing something that is for yourself or your community, or you are selling it as a product, an end product to other people that can generate income. So it's not just a rich man's game. You can do it both ways. You do it as a hobby or you can do it for income. It's up to you, but know your plan. Consult with somebody who knows what they are doing, and if you had to copy anybody, make sure they are doing exactly what you want to do in the long term. Don't just copy people who trying to sell you something and then after you find yourself in a lot of problems and then you don't know what to do and it's a bad investment. So just know your numbers, have a good mentor, and get educated before you do something.
You had mentors?
Yes, I actually had a couple guys, but I had to find them. Like it wasn't like as easy as somebody come up to me and hey, I'll tell you what to do. It's more of like through marketing myself, posting videos, consulting with people, going to different agriculture meetings and groups and seminars. I used to network a lot. I was always somebody passionate about networking, meeting new people, shaking new hands, getting to know more people. So I network with a lot of people. I had a few mentors at the start, and I would say today, I mean, I'm at a position where I am mentoring more people now, but I always like the idea of somebody who's ahead of me, so I could always get more education from them because the biggest time saver in the world is experience. If you have somebody who is well experienced, who is way more educated than you, and have made way more than like money than you, or even build bigger businesses than you save yourself a lot of money, time, energy, and effort by just talking to the right person who's ahead of you very far in the game because you can just take all their experiences from wins or all losses and use that to your advantage and actually build something better for yourself.
As you did mention that
Mhm.
you teach people. When you teach people how to do this,
Yeah.
I mean, some people say that, well,
Mhm.
I teaching you this and you're gonna take away my business. You ever thought like that?
Not really, you know. I mean, maybe once or twice it probably crossed my mind, but at the same time, it's like the industry is so big. How could this person be taking? They are just adding to the market. I mean, I'm just helping. It's all right if you understand economics and market share, right? If our industry is doing $1 billion in revenue every year, just saying, right? And you come into this industry and you want a piece of the pie. Let's just say you want $1 million out of that billion. How are you taking income from my pocket or the other man down the road or anybody else? You are just taking from the market share because, and the market is a growing market as well. Remember, everybody has to eat. We have 8 billion people in the world, you know, right? And that number is going to go up over time. So you are going into an industry where it's growing, you know, like more people would need more food over time. So you are just adding to the volume. And everybody I've taught so far, like they don't affect my sales. Some of them actually help me make more sales, to be honest, because some of my students, when they don't have something, they will call me and be like, hey, Chris, I need this, you know, or like, you know, if I need something from them, I'll call her. Like, if I have a customer that taking, like, let me say 500 pounds of scythe, I don't have the full capacity, I call them. You know, I check to see what, I also have a private group of all my students that we basically network with each other and help each other grow because it's not about you against everybody or you against the entire world or against me. No, you're working as a team. This is not a competition thing. This is about you against yourself at the end of the day, every day, trying to be better and provide value to the environment and to everybody else. It's as simple as that. I don't feel any way of like somebody's threatening to me. I actually encourage more people and I help more people more than ever now. Like I built another farm, like I helped another girl set up a farm this week going here, training another person to set up. He actually left his job and he's gonna do this full time. And I was like, all right, well, I'll be with you all, you know, through the entire process to make sure he's generating income because he has a family to take care of as well. You know, so I'm helping more people generate more income for themselves and their family and help more people around, you know, get something of value. So I don't see anybody else competition. Once I train you, I know I leave something in the world that, you know, is helping somebody else.
That's a nice way to think about it. So, listeners, we're going to jump into a quick commercial break. Chris, stay
Sure.
with us. We'll be back in just a few short moments.
Cindy, what are you doing home so early?
I come to meet you first to go grocery shopping and to get the kids stuff for school. Boy, I hear my co-workers talking about a grocery in Arima and one in Barataria who have the best prices. Come, let me go right now.
Oh God, look at this place. I never see a grocery like this in this country.
And look at parking. Like these people own the whole